Hello friends. Today I'm going to talk about the verbs. Uh, it will be an introduction to this category of the word class that is known as the verb. So here on the board you can see uh, different types of verbs are there, and in this video I will discuss in brief what are these different categories of the verbs. Now let us again begin with the word verb. So verb is an important class of word. It's a word type, and it is mainly the word that talks about uh, actions, states, or events. So, in a very simple way, we can say that verbs are the doing words. Okay. Now, these verbs are divided into two main categories. Which are those two main categories? Main verbs, which are also known as the lexical verbs, and auxiliary verbs, which are also known as the helping verbs. Okay. Why these are known as the helping verbs and why are these the main verbs or the lexical verbs? Because lexical, because there is meaning in those words. Okay, like go, like do, right, like write, read. So there is meaning. Lexical verbs, and they are the main verbs because they indicate whatever it is whether it is action, state, or event. So that's why they are the main verbs. And other category of the verbs is there. They help these main verbs for different purposes. Okay, that's why they are known as the helping verbs or the auxiliary verbs. We'll come to that in detail later on. First, let us talk about the main verbs or the lexical verbs. So, main verbs or the lexical verbs are like go, like talk, like love, like hate, right? And again, these are divided into two categories: regular lexical verbs and the irregular verbs. Now, what are these regular verbs? Because as we know that there are different forms of the verbs. When it is in the dictionary form or it is the infinitive form, then it has a past tense form: talk, talks, okay, talked, talking. Again, it has a past participle form: ed participle form. So there are these five forms of the verbs are there, right? So in case of some verbs which are known as the regular verbs, these five forms can be known by simply adding either yes, ed, ing, and again ed for the past participle form, right? So these are known as, so it is in a regular manner we can form different forms of these verbs. Okay, so if we know walk, then we can just add yes to that. In case the subject is third person singular, like he walks fast, right? So we can predict another forms in a regular manner: walk, walks, walking, walked, and walked, right? We don't have to uh, remember or just know the different forms. We can, in a predictable manner, in a regular manner, we can go on adding other forms of these verbs, they are known as the regular verbs, regular lexical verbs. But there are some verbs of which we cannot predict, or there in their case we cannot just add ed and ing to know or to form another form, that is past tense form or ed participle, past participle form, like that, particularly the past tense and the past participle. For example, go, right, we can not add just ed to this go to uh, to have its past tense form or to have its past participle form, because the past tense form of this verb go is went, right? The past participle form is gone. It's not gone, right? It is gone. Go, went, and gone, right? Same is the case with this right. It is also an irregular verb because right, the past tense of to write is wrote and the past participle is written, irregular way, to have different forms of these verbs. So they are known as the irregular verbs. And your exercise or your assignment for today is uh, try to find out more and more irregular verbs, and it's very interesting. Okay, so these are regular and irregular verbs. Then we have another categories of the main verbs, that is transitive and intransitive. Transitive verbs are those verbs that require the or that take object in front of them to have the complete sense of a particular clause or a particular expression. They need an object after them, in front of them. They are known as the transitive verbs. For example, bring, bring. You need, she brings coffee. I have a cup of coffee. Right. So this is bring is a verb that needs an object. Carry. It's not enough to use this verb in isolation or in an independent way. It needs some object in front of that. So that is known as a transitive verb. Love. You need an object. I love books. I love what? You have to answer that. Or you have to answer that with the help of an object in front of these verbs like bring or carry or love. So these are known as the transitive verbs. Then we have intransitive verbs. Opposite to this, when a verb is there and it does not need any object in front of that to make a complete sense of that particular clause. So that is known as an intransitive verb. Okay. Then we have the other category, other major category of the verb. So these are the main verbs. We have auxiliary or helping verbs, the verbs that help the main verb for different purposes. So they are known as the auxiliary verbs or the helping verbs. And these helping verbs or auxiliary verbs are again divided into two categories: primary auxiliary verbs and modal auxiliary verbs. Now, which are those primary auxiliary verbs? Be, have and do. These are the three primary auxiliary verbs. Now, why are these known as the primary auxiliary verbs? Because they can be used as main verbs as well. In another video, I will go into the details of how these can be used as the main verbs. So, these are known as the primary auxiliary verbs because they can be used either as the main verbs. I am a teacher. Here, I use this auxiliary verb as the main verb. I am a teacher. Am is the main verb, but I am teaching grammar. I am teaching grammar. In this sentence, am helps the main verb teach. Okay, to teach is the main verb here, and am is just an auxiliary or helping verb. So it can play these two roles, both the roles. It can be used as a main verb and it can also be used as a auxiliary verb or helping verb to the main verb. So these are known as the primary auxiliary verbs, and there are three major verbs which are the primary auxiliary verbs, that is be, have and do. Of course, there are different forms. Be has these five forms: is, am, are, was, were. Have, has and had. And do, does, did. So these are the primary auxiliary verbs. We have some other helping verbs as well, like can, could, may, might. These are known as the modal auxiliary verbs. Why? Because they indicate the modality of the meaning. There are slight shades of different meanings in those, and they suggest this. Again, we will study these modal auxiliary verbs in detail in another video. For the time being, modal auxiliary verbs are again divided into two categories: central modals and the marginal modals. And these are the central modals: can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would. So these are the central modal, and there are marginal modals like ought to, used to, need to. So this is a very brief introduction to different categories of this word class known as the verbs. Thank you.